is not only an accomplished industry leader, but also a proud Embry-Riddle alumnus. He is the CEO and president of Silent Falcon UAS Technologies, where he's led a major shift in the company from building small UASs to becoming a global player in remote sensing and AI-based infrastructure intelligence. Under his leadership, Silent Falcon technologies are now used around the world to help assess runways, buildings, and other critical infrastructure. And before stepping into the tech world and into the business world, Lieutenant Colonel retired Bishop had a long and impressive Air Force career. He was known by his call sign Slider at that time period, where he served as a highly decorated F-16 Wild Weasel combat pilot, a squadron commander, and was the operations officer for the Air Force's largest F-16 squadron during the opening of Operation Iraqi Freedom. His team's actions were featured in Time magazine, and his combat achievements earned him the Bronze Star and several Air Medals for Valor. Now, outside of just the combat area, Grant was also a foreign military sales pilot, where he oversaw the delivery and the training for 150 F-16s to Taiwan and helped to integrate the Polish Air Force into NATO as an instructor and as an evaluator pilot. Outside of that, he's also an accomplished inventor and innovator, holding multiple patents. So you can see Grant is really an amazingly whole person aspect, something that we always look at as our students as we're moving through Embry-Riddle. And of course, as I said, he is a fellow Eagle. Grant earned his master's degree right here at Embry-Riddle and has additional degrees from King's College London and from San Diego State. So without any further ado, join me in welcoming our ERAU alumnus, a combat leader, innovator, and CEO, Mr. Grant Bishop.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the intro. I really humbled to be here and speak with you. First, I want to sincerely thank everyone who made this event possible and those participating today. It's truly a privilege to speak to really the future leaders of aviation, especially here at my alma mater. Special thank you to Monica from Philanthropy, Arnold and his team from Career Ready, and Eric, thank you again for Eagles in Service for your help in organizing and supporting us. And really to all of you, the students, I know that most of you are working professionals, balancing demanding jobs, family responsibilities, and academics. That's a tough road, but one that's absolutely worth it. Your perseverance, discipline, and curiosity are the foundation of leadership. I also want to take a moment to recognize Nicole, who helped set all of this up. When we were first connected, she was part of the faculty and staff at ERAU. And during the process of organizing this event, she mentioned she was leaving to spend more time with her family. In that conversation, I saw a highly qualified individual, someone with exceptional professionalism, intelligence, and integrity, and attention to detail, because she really made me have to clean up the office to give this presentation. But I offered her a part-time role with Silent Falcon, and I can honestly say that she accomplishes more in an hour than most people do in a day. She's been a tremendous addition to our team.
So typically, hold on, I have to.
And at Silent Falcon, I'll just quickly say that we're scaling up quickly and always looking for great people who share our passion for innovation and excellence. I'm excited to share what we do. And if I can offer even a small sliver of situational awareness, the entrepreneurial mindset of a fighter pilot, and some of the different kinds of math I've encountered as I've gone through this process, I would love to share it with you, and I hope it helps the next entrepreneur or leader out there to make things even better. Nicole will stay on after the session in case you see an opportunity as I'm speaking at Silent Falcon and have a desire to join our team. She's your point of contact for that. And for those of you who may not know, she's also, as of 30 seconds ago, the point of contact for the annual Crud Match Championship between Silent Falcon and the ERAU staff. Now, we have proudly held that trophy for the last 6 years in a row because I haven't mailed them an invitation. But this year, we're hoping that they'll actually show up and give us a fight. All right. Hopefully I haven't bored you, and we're ready to look at some picks. Okay, here we go. We're going to talk about the future of aviation, drones, and AI. And our vision here is we want to improve safety and improve revenues. I'm going to talk about some of those things that we've found as we've gone through and essentially digitized a lot of things that were analog, and how hopefully it spurs some thoughts out there on how you can make things better for safety as well as generating revenues for airports and flying. So let's go on to the next slide here. Okay, this is me in one slide. Eric kind of covered a bunch of it, but I would just want to kind of give you, we'll come back to this every once in a while just to kind of see aviation takes twists and turns as you go along. You know, you think, hey, I can remember back when I was in your position in college, you know, looking around, I want to be a pilot, and I'm working at a company that's doing stuff in space. And it sets a lot of things in motion for me that sort of changed my thinking as I went along. My original plan was go in, get a degree, go in the Air Force, fly for 6 years, become an airline pilot, and then fly till 65 and then find something else to do. But I have to say that as I got more involved in technology and seeing the things that sort of came natural to me for creating better products and ways to extract information that wasn't readily available, it changed my course, and I'll just kind of show you as we go along here. Hopefully it won't be too boring. If you got questions, you want me to go back to something, let me know. There's lots of stories behind all of these things, but being in your seats, I know that time is of the essence. So starting off, we'll pick up in 1985. That's when I graduated from San Diego State. At that time, I was building up flying time. By the time I joined the Air Force, I had about 700 hours. And the company I was working for was Trex Enterprises. And going to San Diego State, so my day routine was get up at 6, go fly, go to school, go to Trex Enterprises. And Trex became this, we were a tiny company, about 15 people, that were figuring out ways to look at satellites of foreign countries from the ground with optics. To do that took a lot of innovation and things to do, but those things that I learned back then, I'm applying now to what we do at Silent Falcon. And so being able to see a satellite from the ground with a camera, every picture we took looked like a cotton ball. But we noticed, just like you see stars when they twinkle, it's because something's in focus and then something's going out of focus. Ultimately, we figured out how to get each pixel in focus to create an image to then figure out what the satellite was. And in doing that, figuring out that math that was behind it, and that's what this whole story is about, is the math and how it applies, is that we were able to figure out, well, gosh, if we want to take down a satellite or neutralize it with a laser, you can't just point a laser up into space and fire it. You've got to get a coherent beam hitting the satellite. So by figuring out how to take a picture of a satellite, we also figured out how to create adaptive optics so that we could understand what the atmosphere was doing between the laser firing station and the satellite. And doing it so quickly, obviously very, very, very tight numbers here, but we'd figure out what the atmosphere was doing, and then we created adaptive optics. So if you can imagine a mirror broken up into a lot of little pieces and twitching very quickly, we would fire the laser incoherently, so it wasn't in a adhesive sort of state, and allow the atmosphere to make it cohesive by the time it struck the laser. Now, I was able to summarize that in just a minute or so, but took years. And A lot of other products came out of that, and I can talk about those later on. But we at the time we built the largest ground-based laser. It was 100 kilojoules to be able to strike a satellite. So that was my college, and so it was all under Ronald Reagan's Star Wars initiative. So in college, we don't have all the advanced ways of moving data back and forth. So this was in San Diego. At night, I would take the reports, I would catch the red eye back to Washington, D.C., and hand deliver it because it got me a secret clearance. And then I would fly back the next day. So I missed a little bit of school, but it was well worth the experience. And many of the people that I worked with became part of Ronald Reagan's Science Council. So after I left college, it was about, I signed up, I went through officer training school. So I had about a full 2 weeks off from graduation to starting to march and walk and talk like the military wants you to. And then I stayed in the service. I told you I wanted to go in for 6 years and then go to the airlines. But I got in and I had such a great time that I decided to stay in. So the military sort of has a couple of different phases, and we'll go through those quickly. But the now, we just talked about math and how we solved this problem with satellites. The math now that we do in the military is really so you can survive. And I would say that's one of the things is that you're going to get in your life, whether it's civil, military, whatever environment you go into, you're going to get a lot of problems. Most of them can be solved with math and just sitting down and thinking about it. The Brits have a thing called the estimate, and they would make us sit down and understand all the factors that go into something. And now I'm sure you can probably just ask ChatGPT. But the thing is, if you understand all the elements in the system, you can start to not only evolve things, but you can see how things are better. You can also, if you're in combat, learn the weaknesses of your enemy. So understanding that knowledge, and if you guys read Sun Tzu, there's a lot of the things in Sun Tzu can essentially be translated to what I kind of look at as math and help me make go, no-go decisions all day long. So Air Force, signed up 1985, flew down in Del Rio, Texas, Laughlin Air Force Base. And that's about a year long. And upon graduation, I became a first assignment IP, a FAPE, and flew the T-38. So let's look at a couple crazy pictures. So there's me signing up, swearing in. When we weren't flying, Del Rio, Texas, if you haven't been there, it's pretty barren. And so we entertained ourselves quite a bit. I remember this party. In fact, it was a hat party. So we all got whatever we could find and went out and sat by the pool and had a lot of beers and commiserated about how tough flying was. There's the T-38 I was flying. Great airplane. Earned about 1,500 plus hours in it. I was notorious for flying as much as I possibly could. You're only allowed to fly 75 hours every 30 days.
Excuse me for just a second, Grant. The slides are not advancing for you, so if you could try to go in there and advance those real quick. For some reason, we're not getting that updated slide.
What slide are you seeing now?
We are seeing the Trex Enterprises and the Star Wars initiative.
Ah, interesting. Okay. Let me stop sharing for a second.
And while we're in this brief pause here, as you get different questions that come up to you, please feel free to insert those questions into the chat window, and we'll get to those at the end of the presentation. Or if they fit in at some other point, we'll try to fit them in there. it's great to see that we've got individuals coming with us from all over the U.S. and a few from around the world. I've seen a couple of people coming in from UAE, from Peru, both residential and non-residential ERAU members from all different walks of life and all different locations throughout. So thank you for joining us and continuing to pause to come in. We'll be back with a couple of slides here in just a moment, hopefully.
Thank you, Eric. And I also want to mention to the students who were able to sign on, but maybe a little bit later, Grant did mention that if you all are interested in a role with Silent Falcon, please connect with me. When the presentation is over, Grant has to leave, but I'll stay back and I'll provide you all my contact information so that you all can connect with me and maybe we can work up an interview, or if you're 6 months from graduating, a year out, and this is something you're really interested in, I can make sure I keep you on my roster. So Nicole Byer, Silent Falcon, I'll give you my contact after he presents. While we're waiting, if you all have questions about Silent Falcon, I'm happy to answer them for you. I don't know if you have questions, Eric, that you want to start with while we wait for Grant to get the slides going again.
Well, as we start looking at this different area, I don't want to interrupt Grant as he's trying to as he's working on those slides there. But looking at some background into Silent Falcon, and maybe you can answer some of this, Nicole. Looking at where did the idea of Silent Falcon and that transition come from?
So Silent Falcon was actually a name that was created before Grant came on board. They had a completely different mission at the time. They used to create fixed-wing airplanes, fixed-wing drones, and the drones would operate at 10 to like 17 hours. They had longer endurance than a traditional quad or drones, smaller drones that we're used to. And they used to support military-like operations. And that's where the name Silent Falcon comes from. Right now, what they're doing isn't really, it doesn't really go with the name, but Silent Falcon is known for Silent Falcon. But it originally started as an organization that supported military-like operations, and their aircraft were built as such. Now it's evolved into what it is today, providing infrastructure support to save cost and time. What Grant does is very efficient, very effective, and at the end of the day, it provides safety. Right now, he works with airports, so aviation safety, making sure that runways are clear and clean and free of debris. And they also make sure that there are no cracks in the runway. Everything he collects, all the data his company collects, they're able to provide that data, usable data, to the airport manager so that the airport manager can make informed decisions that are cost effective. It's not a manual process. Currently, before Grant came along with his business idea, they were doing it manually. And that would take months at a time for one airport. Silent Falcon can scan an airport in a few days, which saves time, money, and just continuity, and they're able to scan airports more often, right? If it doesn't take you months to scan one runway, you could do it a few times a year if needed, depending on the contract.
Hey, Nicole, I've got the slides up here. So Grant, if you'd like, I can go ahead and share my screen and we can work through displaying through mine.
Grant just updated me that he's trying to get back in. I guess you guys did such a great job blowing up the Teams meeting. He's trying.
Okay, not a problem at all. So as we look at our the different opportunities that are out there, go ahead and throw into the chat window some different individuals or organizations that you're interested in hearing from as students and alumni from Embry-Riddle. Perhaps give us some ideas of people that we could reach out to have future guest speaker programs. FAA and ATC personnel. All right, excellent, excellent. Enduring, okay. Flight dispatchers. Epic Systems, okay. OCC. And also, what was the reason why you have dialed in for today's guest speaker? Pilot program management, NASA personnel. All right, great, great. We're seeing a lot of different ideas and opportunities come on through.
Yeah, some of the roles that students are typing, Silent Falcon needs or will need. So this is incredible. I love it. Thank you. Yeah, please make sure you all stay after the presentation if you want to connect with me or get my contact information. I interviewed some folks earlier this week, and a few of them were Embry-Riddle students, are Embry-Riddle students.
From Eldon's fist bump over there, I'm going to assume that he was one of those.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm loving all the roles that the students are posting. This is great, just to give us an idea. I see the Zipline drone delivery. I believe Embry-Riddle partners with Zipline. They're an incredible organization to work for. One of my former students is from Zipline, and he and I connect on a regular basis. Someone asked, where are you based? So the headquarters is in the Baltimore, DC area, but very similar to worldwide. Currently, operations are conducted in the United States. At the same time, they did receive a few contracts recently where they're going to operate overseas. This will be a global business. At the end of the day, that's the vision for Silent Falcon, to go global. Ready to be scheduled operations in Europe and Greenland next year. That's a big deal. So for sure, it's more intense domestically, but as the company scales, it's going to go global. So you all having our contact information, that's going to help in the long run. And if you don't see an opportunity today, you can always contact me later. Let me see if I can answer some of these other questions. There are a lot of awesome questions here, so I'm just scrolling through them. Let me see what Grant text, excuse me. It's not letting him in, Eric. It's saying, it just continues to say connecting ...
All right. If we could get one of our
If-
tech people to go ahead and take a look there and see if we can do a direct invite for him, please. Greatly appreciate it.
Anyone whose camera is on, if you all can turn off your camera, whatever we can do to reduce bandwidth might help. Yeah, everyone who has a camera on, I see you all turning your camera off. Thank you.
And I've just sent him a direct link to the connection, so we will see if we can get that to work here momentarily.
Okay, until then, Eric, I'll scan through the questions to see if I can answer some of their questions right now. There are a lot. This is great. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Grant tried that, but thank you.
As we
Thank you,
look through some of these questions here, I mean, looking at the idea of, you know, what are some of the I guess you already touched on this partially, but the objectives of Silent Falcon and how is it distinguished from other companies that are out there?
Just give me a second while I get to Grant's text message. Okay, he's still trying. Thank you for your patience. Well, something incredible Silent Falcon does is we're able to scan airports without airports closing, shutting down. Of course, there are optimal times to scan, but the fact that, I mean, you can't expect an international airport to just close for a few hours, right? So the fact that his patented technology enables their aircraft to scan, Grant's in, if someone can let him in, the fact that their patented AI technology can do all that scanning while airport operations are ongoing, that's a major milestone in this field.
All right, and it appears that Grant is back into the system again. So Grant, if you can just go ahead and give us a quick shout if you're back up and running.
I can hear you all. I don't
We
think I
can hear
see
you.
all.
Excellent.
Okay. All right. So sorry about that. I don't know what happened, but that's just technology. So Nicole, did you cover everything? Can I go now?
No, sir, but please don't put your camera back on. I just had everyone turn off their cameras. If you're able to pull up your slides, great. If not, Grant, then maybe just talk through it. But I think it would be fun for the students to see the images you have.
Let's see what happens. All right.
All
Can you
right,
see
we've
anything?
got the slides. We can see them. Absolutely. Thanks.
Okay. Let's see if we'll just go from there. So what time is it? All right. Let's fast forward. What have you covered so far?
I answered some of the questions, just like the history of Silent Falcon, why it's named Silent Falcon, but what it does today, just generically, and how that's different than how Silent Falcon actually started before you joined Silent Falcon.
Cool. Well, let's just rip through. I flew a lot in the Air Force. Let's rip through that, and then we'll get to Silent Falcon and talk about that stuff. Okay, so pilot training. There's me. Then I flew the F-16. Flew it all over the place. And let's see how I can fancy slides. Bear with me here as I'm learning some different control. There we go. Okay, so when you join a fighter squadron, it's a little bit of a wolf pack. You kind of never go anywhere by yourself. You're always with your teammates, and there's a little bit of drinking that goes on. And so when I joined and got in the fighter community, I literally traveled across the Pacific, traveled across the Atlantic, saw all kinds of great things, and with the same group of folks. And it was a very tight-knit community. And still stay in touch with a lot of these guys today. One of the really cool things is you get to see stuff you'd never see before. Like, I had no idea that our intelligence officer slept in such a pigsty. So I took pictures of his cot there. That's some of my humor. Just throw that in. Driving down the road in the Middle East, and there's a camel in the back of a truck. You spend a lot of time in the back of cargo aircraft as you deploy places. So on some of our deployments, especially right after Desert Storm, we went out to try and sort of make amends with a lot of countries, and just a show of friendship. So we spent a lot of time traveling in either C-141s or C-5s in the back. So you got your engines, everything's all packed up. You roll out, you roll in. And again, you're sitting these things and going all kinds of places. You get to know each other. You become one big family. I don't know if this is going to play or not, but I went. My sister loves The Price is Right, and so she talked me into wearing my uniform one day, And let's see if it plays. Here we go. Can you guys hear that?
Yes, we can hear
Yes,
it.
sir.
Okay. So yes, I was a showcase winner on The Price is Right. All right. So back to the Air Force, I went to NATO after I went to like finishing school, war college. I was assigned to Ramstein Air Base. And at that time, a lot of the countries that had been previous Soviet countries were starting to come into NATO. So 3 of those countries, 2 of them I flew with, which was Poland and the Czech Republic. And the big thing was, as soon as they were on the NATO side, we had to teach them NATO tactics. So I would go every other week out to one of the air bases and fly either MiG-29s or Su-22. This picture here of this MiG-29, this is is rather interesting. I don't know if you can see it or not, but we always take for granted all the technologies we have in the United States as though they're everywhere. So this MiG-29, and this is a really simple thing. If you look on landing gear, they have these swivel joints so that when hydraulics move, that when landing gear go up and down, that you don't get twisting and breaking of like hydraulic lines, right? The Russians didn't build their airplanes like that. They just take coils of that the hydraulics are flowing through, and they put a bunch of wines in it and allow it to act like a spring. So yeah, it's really cheap, but guess what? When it breaks, there's no real backup system. And so this MiG-29 lost all of its hydraulics. It lands on the runway, and the barrier is not set up for the MiG-29, and the wire goes over, the arresting cable goes over the top of the canopy and slices into the tail. And that ended MiG-29 flights for a while. So I spent a lot of time up in Poland flying the Su-22. And again, interesting, going to a country that here they're right on the border of the West at that time. And there was great fear that they would defect. So none of the fuel gauges worked in the aircraft. The pilots were not allowed to start their own airplane. There was a person on the outside of the aircraft that would start it. Then they would also have a person that would plan the missions and put it into the aircraft's computer system. They had broken everything apart that we take for granted here in the West, just to stop people defecting. Anyway, very, very interesting. And now they're flying F-16s, and this is years later, but the early stages were quite interesting and eye-opening for me as I went to these different countries and flew with them. Combat operations in the Middle East. One of the things is they started to embed reporters and the media with us. I was paired up with the BBC and Time Life, and they did stories on us. And I had the night shift, so I would take off at about 4 or 5 in the evening, and doing wild weasel missions over Iraq, and I would land at about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. As soon as I landed and debriefed, I would go on to BBC Radio and tell them how things were going. We were trying to build up strong bonds with the community in what we were doing there, because it was sort of a contentious war. Anyhow, all of this basically prepared me for going out into the civilian world. And I think that's the thing. As you go down this journey, you're going to see all kinds of different things that come to you, and you need to be able to pivot and do different things. And you may not have started down, you may not end up on the same path that you planned on. More pictures from the desert. One thing I figured out early on from my travel in the Air Force is I always took a bicycle along because there were never enough cars. The last unit I was with was the 4th Fighter Squadron. I was a squadron commander there. It's out at Hill Air Force Base. my role in the Air Force became one of sort of a fix-it guy. So when there was problems, I would go take over the squadron or the unit. This particular unit had crashed 4 airplanes and they had a murder-suicide. And so you have to be able to go in, get everybody focused on the mission, figure things out, and get moving, because you can imagine, you can see all the people involved in supporting an aircraft and a team to go out there. Losing a unit like that for a variety of reasons is never good. So you want to get them back up to speed as quick as possible. So always have a plan when you go into a place to get spun up, sort of a 90-day plan. And that's kind of what led me into where I went next. Was after I retired, I went back to the same place we were doing the satellite imagery with, and they said, hey, we've got these one-of devices. We want you to commercialize them. So we had made a tripwire detector for the Army, and it worked great on pavement, didn't work so good when it got out in the dirt. But Concorde had crashed recently, and it crashed because of FOD. So one day I just grabbed the radar, I went out to an airfield, turned it on, started figuring out, hey, this thing can see FOD. And so from about 2006 till about 2019, I traveled the world helping the FAA get FOD detection systems and other runway safety systems into airports, because it turns out that FOD is about a direct cost $4 billion per year to aircraft. When you look at the knock-on effects, it jumps up to $15–20 billion very, very quickly. So that's what I spent my time doing while I was working at Moog. Silent Falcon, who was building drones at the time, called me up and said, hey, we got this drone. We want to compete in the marketplace. Will you come look at it? And I said, sure. So I went down, I looked at it, and I'm like, hey, this is fantastic. But you're not going to be a global competitor with this because of a variety of reasons. Nothing to do with the capabilities of the aircraft, just the fact that it was a tiny company and they were taking on behemoths out there, and just they weren't ready for it. So I said, look, if you want to build drones, I'm not your guy. I said, because that's a losing race. And this is 2019. I said, but the data coming off the drone can be used to solve a lot of the problems that I've seen traveling around the world, looking at runways and talking to airports and understanding why they have problems with safety and things like that. So the board said, hey, we like the idea. And they said, you're hired, pivot the company. So 2019, 3 days after I was hired, I scanned an airport with the drone. We ran some very crude AI on it, and all created in-house. And then I went up to the FAA Tech Center that I'd built this relationship with over the years, helping them with FOD detection, things like that. It's located up in Atlantic City. If you ever have a chance, go there. They've got all sorts of things that they will show you, how they analyze pavement, come up with these different safety regulations. It's a great place to go visit. So I went up there and I said, hey guys, I can solve your problem for pavement inspections. I said, I can analyze the airfield literally in minutes and give you answers hours later. And so out of that started about a 5-year journey to get certified. And that's part of the math that's involved anytime you do something. You've got math to fix problems. You've got math when you're fighting and you're in combat. You've got to know different math instantly to save your life. When you started to get into the government math and how to prevent and create safety, and then AI, it's a different kind of dealing. And you've got to understand that that you may have the greatest thing since sliced bread, but if there is not a bucket of money to support it, or a conduit, or rules, or a variety of other issues to support it, it will probably die. So anytime you come up with a solution, make sure you first, my plans are always, I look at what the regulations say, and I try to fit inside the existing regulations and modify within that, because then I don't have to create regulations. To create a new regulation for something takes 5–10 years. So if you want to try to make money off of a new product or even try to improve safety, if you've got to create new rules and regulations, it's an uphill battle. In the FOD detection, I'll just give you an example. I had to go get rules changed with the FCC so that we could turn certain radars on because the rules didn't have those frequencies allowed at that time. Lots of money, lots of time, and all that slows you down when you're talking business. Now, AI. When I first started, no, it wasn't as common as it was today. Drones. A lot of times when you say drones or UAS, people sort of think of what you buy in the store. We all know there's lots of different kinds of drones. Again, I went and looked at the rules for this, and the initial in my face was, hey, you can't fly drones on an airport. So I looked at the rules, and there's a thing called remote sensing. The way it's written, it says aircraft. Well, a drone's an aircraft. So that's how I got onto the airports. And then with the AI, all the AI you use on ChatGPT, for example, are using these large language models, right? All the stuff we've had in history that's written has been digitized, and now computers can go in and analyze it and understand it. This is very specialized AI. It doesn't look at words. It has to look at physical objects. So, and in this case, pavement. So, and I apologize, pavement is very boring, but it's one of the most expensive things we spend money on in aviation, and it keeps aircraft safe if it's done right. So, we found out that if we pixelate the airfield down to about 1.5 millimeters, we can then look at any kind of distortion on the pavement and analyze it digitally with our AI. Now, you know that large language model that you use in ChatGPT doesn't exist for pavement. So we had to create it. So over the 5 years that we went through the certification process with the FAA, we've created a library that's about 2 petabyte, and I didn't even know what a petabyte was until someone told me, but it's a big number. And what that allows us to do is analyze the imagery and look at the physical characteristics in 3 dimensions of the distress, go into our libraries, match it up with various worldwide standards on pavement for airports and roads and other things, and very quickly we can assign all the math that goes with it to saying, hey, this runway's good or bad. So to do that, we have a team that's broken up into basically digitization, which are the teams that go out and take drones and specialized cameras and image the things that we want to analyze. Then we have our AI team, right, which is a bunch of servers as well as AI engineers. And we continually update models and make things go faster and faster. And we have set ourselves up. We actually started in the cloud. We found it was about 1/6 of the cost if we did things on premise. So that's what we did. We started building our own, essentially, server farm. Then once the data comes out, we tried to deliver it to the end user. Let me get my slides caught up here. We try to deliver it to the end user in the visualization that they normally use. So there's a thing called Paver, which pavement engineers, airport managers use, and it basically takes every piece of pavement in 5,000 square feet and rates it from 0 to 100. 100's new, 0's gravel, and it gives it a color code. And that picture you see at the top there is Puerto Vallarta. We went down and scanned their airfield for them, and that was the first time they'd ever had 100%. So we spent the last 5 years doing that. And one of the things that we found is, gosh, how are they doing it now? So here's let me introduce you to my competitor. This is what we're competing against, the wheel. This is how we maintain the safety of world airports. They go out and they measure the runway and cracks and things, take notes, take some pictures with their iPhone or iPad.
Excuse
And-
me, Grant, we can't see,
Yep.
or at least I can't see you in the wheel.
Ah,
Are you on camera?
I'm on camera, but maybe the camera's not working. Anyhow,
Yeah. You're too popular. Sorry.
no, still it won't select camera. Sorry about that. Anyway, it's one of those measuring wheels that that real estate agents use. And that's what we compete against. And that's been great for us because it turns out after we started scanning 100% of the runways like the FAA requires you to, that airports have not, the people who have been scanning for them haven't been doing 100%. And so here's a case where we did Chattanooga, and they use what I would say is they called it their traditional method. So a company came in, used measuring wheels, measured about 10% of the airfield and guessed on the other 90. Well, think about anytime you're trying to do math or calculations. If you're guessing 90%, you're probably going to be about 90% wrong. So we scanned this airfield, saved them $3 million in one scan because it gave them all the images and information that they needed. And because it's so precise, they were allowed to only repair the things that they had to repair. And so that's our big sales point, is that we can go out, we don't shut the runway down, we scan the airfield, we give you all the information, and you end up saving between 50 and 80% in maintenance repairs. So this is what that market looks like. So it's about you can see there's giant numbers here, right? We just earned a contract with DFW. We also just earned a contract with the Air Force to do 23 of their air bases around the world. And that came, as I said, after 5 years of working hard to get the approval of the FAA, which came in March this year. So now we are scaling up quickly, and we're trying to figure out, we need people to capture data. We need people to help us continue to build our models so that we can do things faster. Because the one thing that's great about digitizing an airfield is there are about 15 different inspections that need to take place. Well, if you go across the airfield and you digitize everything, all you have to do for those other inspections is redice the information and redistribute it as it's needed for the report. So we can look at the pavement, we can look at things inside of grooves for rubber deposits, we can look at paint markings, we can look at, are things properly set up around the airfield in the runway safety area? Do they have equipment that's not allowed in the runway safety area? We can look at the airspace. We can look at the trees at the end. We can tell you, hey, those trees are safe now, but based on their growth rate, they're gonna be in the airspace in 2 years. We can look at the pavement. We take into account the loads of the aircraft coming in. We look at the weather, and we can tell the airport, hey, guess what? This runway, it says it's only good for 3 years in the academic world, but because of the loads and the weather you have here, it's actually good for additional time. So that's how we're also helping them save money. We're actually putting very good predictive analysis in their hands that they've never had before. I had an airport call me yesterday morning and they said, hey, we're getting some construction done. The construction guys just moved some equipment and dirt. I want to make sure they haven't damaged something. Can I see the imagery you took? Minutes later, they've got the imagery. They were super tickled because now they knew, right? So once you get digitization going, and the thing is that I don't think anybody's going to go backward to say, you know what, I don't like this digital stuff. Let's use the wheel. This is just the beginning. I hear a lot of people talk about AI and is it overinflated and different things like that. And they'll compare it to a baseball game. So in my comparison of AI and how it applies to not only aviation, but intermodal transportation and other things that we have to measure in life and maintain in life as asset management, I feel like I'm going to a double header and I've just pulled into the parking lot. There is so much ahead. We have on our product roadmap so many things we want to do, and we know that they're all doable. And it's a matter of making sure, as we're a growing company here, not to get too far ahead of our skis and just keep it in pacing. But for something that we started about 5 years ago with one tiny airport, we've now done over 300. We've got, by the end of the year, we should be well over 400, if not more. And we're already in 6 countries, and we're picking up another 4 this year. So that's the exciting part to me, is that this thing has just started and it's growing, and all we're looking at is pavement. And think about all the other stuff. So I know there's some smart people in the audience, and I want to encourage you to think about all the things that you can measure and how you can save money and time. It's a huge opportunity, and you're at the right school to capitalize on it. Road maintenance, guess what? Pavements on airports are very similar to road pavement. They have similar standards. And so last year we were rated one of the top 5 pavement management companies in the world by a Spanish company called Abertis. So we've been scanning roads for them in Mexico. We're setting up another pilot program to do all their roads using some different systems that will feed us the data. But it's very exciting to me, and I'm looking for smart people to come help us. That's why we've got Nicole. Building facades. I don't know if many of you can remember, there was a building in Miami that collapsed. Again, there are regulations to inspect the outsides of buildings, and you look at the cost of putting, scaffolding and things like that just to get up and see these things, and a drone can literally do it in minutes. So huge opportunities. And it's just a matter of who's going to capitalize them the fastest. And from our standpoint, I've always worked on teams where we don't just want to, place, we want to win. And so our plan is to go in and dominate these markets. And we're doing it in a number of different ways. But I'm pretty excited what's ahead of us. Again, there's the countries we're in right now, and we've got 4 more lining up by the end of this year. So I will stop there. We're on top of the hour. I'm ready for questions or getting kicked off, either one, whatever you want to do.
We'll go with the question option when it comes to that at this point. Thank you very much, Grant, for that presentation and giving us the background, both of you personally and of Silent Falcon, and where you see the future of this technology. One of the questions that came in earlier on was, given that background and given your experience, what type of research should some of our students here at Embry-Riddle be looking into as they're preparing themselves for a career out there in this combination of aviation and AI all together?
Great question. I would look at it from a common perspective of where's the pain point. And the reason I say that is when you become an expert in certain fields, you tend to solve things with that expertise instead of standing back and saying, hey, what's the problem? What solutions are there to fix it? There's many roads to Rome, as they say, and there's a lot of ways to do this. I think the big thing I would do is, first of all, understand the regulatory space. Those are all the people that are going to say no to you in life. Find out how you can operate, and once you know your operating space, right, your envelope, as it were, then see what problems you can solve within that envelope. Because the key is that don't try to solve everything all at once. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of drone companies have had issues, is that they tried to make a drone that would solve all the problems all at once, instead of saying, you know what, we're going to pick a drone and we're going to build it to do this one thing because we know there's a market there and this is the price point for that market. So that would be my main thing is look at the problem, understand all aspects of it, and then figure out how can I solve it? Sort of do a tabletop exercise. Can I do this? For example, when we came into the drone testing with the FAA, they had they were trying to use off-the-shelf drones to solve the problem. And I said, well, you're going to have to create new regulations for that. Why don't you just use the remote sensing regulations that are already in place? And it was like, a light bulb went on for them. So that's the one thing is I would say, learn the regulatory stuff. Finding money is actually easy. And I could talk about that. And they always try to use big words for you, but I can help you with those things that if you contact Nicole and you want to know how to get funding for a startup or something like that. It seems a little fearful, but it's actually pretty straightforward if you've got a good idea.
Great. Well, why don't you go ahead and hit on that topic? So talking about different opportunities for funding and things like that, especially for our students who may be looking at getting into conducting research and looking for funding for those research projects.
Okay. So if let's just assume that you've got a great idea. No one's ever thought about it. So if it's involved with the FAA or some other government agency, somewhere within that agency, they will have, they may not have exactly what you're looking to do, because let's face it, you've come up with something that they haven't thought about. So what you have to do is find what it's solving. Like, I went after runways, right? I knew they were doing things with runways. So I found, hey, we ended up creating what's called a broad agency announcement, where they go, hey, does anybody know how to do this? And there's more of that now. So understand broad agency announcements, go to the agency that you think you're going to help. And if you're ready to compete with others, jump in there. There's much more money there. Or you can go, there's SBIRs and different things like that. But these are all government things. Government moves slow, right? And they shut down every once in a while. What I would encourage you to do is, if there's a commercial application to it that's going to save somebody money, that's who your customer is. Go find somebody who you can solve. Know how you're going to solve their problem, what it costs, what the return on investment is, and then there are a lot of they're like speed dating. They have these events. You can look them up on the internet. I think there's one coming up in New York at the beginning of December, and you get in there and you go give a pitch, and there's an entry fee and all those kinds of things. Nothing's ever free to that regard, but you go in and give a pitch, and if you get essentially 2 minutes to 4 minutes, you give your pitch, and after the pitch, you'll get swarmed, if it's a great idea, by people that want to come and invest in you early. That's one way. The other thing is there are a lot of groups that meet locally, and each state has them, where they have networking events. You come, you learn, and you get an opportunity to present your ideas. And there are people out there that want to invest in good ideas. Now, if you don't have a good idea, they're not going to invest. So that just going to those will tell you a startup mode.
All right, Grant, we lost you there, and for just a second, you had said that going to those events would basically provide you with the idea that, hey, maybe this idea isn't as great as I thought it was, based off of the feedback that you get from those business speed dating opportunities. Is that what you were saying there?
Yeah, it's good to go out and just say what you're going to do in public because you're going to get hammered with questions that you probably haven't thought about. And um, if you answer the questions well, or you actually think, well, yeah, it makes sense, and you get someone who goes, hey, I like your idea, you'll get money to start. And don't think it's going to be a lap of luxury. I was calculating the hours I put in. Uh, I would say over the last 5 years, I've probably averaged somewhere between 15 and 20 hours a day. Um, and it's one of those things you got to love what you do to do this, but the excitement that comes with it and the great opportunities, one of the things I really enjoy is we hire a lot of folks right out of school. Uh, we train them, we teach them, we watch them grow. And then unfortunately for me, Google comes along and steals a lot of people. But the thing that's nice is that you can see people get their feet, and they come from a world at school and academics where they're taught this is how it should work generally, right? That's kind of, you get taught the theory. Then when you get out and you've got to make money, you got to deliver on time, all those things, it really tests your mettle. And so, one of the things for us is we have a battle rhythm of every 24 hours where we meet at 0900 every single day and get an update. And if we got something more important going on, then it decreases in the time where we may meet every 12 hours. But the idea is we know we have to work faster. And I didn't get to talk about the slides, but in faster in a fighter pilot OODA loop, where you're making decisions faster than your competitors.
And that's great, brings up a great point. The idea of the amount of tenacity and the amount of effort that goes into these different activities. Not just creating the activity, not just creating the invention, creating the opportunity, but then maintaining it. Being that most responsive organization, especially when you're a smaller one, to be able to compete against these larger companies that are going to obviously going to try to come in and try to steal your customer base, steal your ideas, and steal your way forward. That constant evolving. Have you seen that as you've continued to grow the company into being having other companies and other organizations that are trying to creep into that space?
Yeah, when we first started, when the broad BAA, the broad area announcement went out from the FAA, 16 companies came forward and said, "Hey, we can scan an airport and tell you everything about it with a drone." The FAA down selected to 3, and of the 3, we were the only ones that were doing AI. All the others were just having humans look at the imagery after it'd been captured. So that allowed us, a normal report will take 9 months for some people. We're doing it in hours. So it's happening at light speed by using AI to our advantage. But yeah, you have to think about, they're a little bit like frenemies, right? You have to work with the big companies because you may need their help with getting into certain marketplaces. But I think as long as everybody understands their bounds, it's okay. I mean, I'll give you an example. When we first started, we had a company that was doing inspections come to us, and they said, "Great, we want to work with you guys." So we did an NDA. We started working together. We got a call from an airport, and they said, "Hey, will you come out and look at my pavement, because I don't think this report was done very good." We scanned it. We go, "Yeah, this, whatever you were told, this is the 100% truth of it." Well, turns out it was that other company that we had just teamed up with, so they weren't very happy, and we stopped working with each other. So what that told me instantly was, if I had been them, I would have worked even tighter with us and fixed all the problems they had. But instead, we are now, I would say, competitors, And we continue to get called in, like Chattanooga was one of the airports they had done. And Chattanooga had been told, hey, you got to spend $3 million. And when we showed them the data, it turns out they didn't need it.
Wow. So, I mean, real world savings that you can see there right away. I noticed that you branched out from the runways and you talked about going into the roadways because they were so similar and then to buildings. Are there thoughts of branching out into other areas as well? Or are you just are your plans right now, at least to maintain with those different hardened structures that you're dealing with?
So we've designed our AI so that we can go into other markets. And what we look at is, what does it cost? What's the pain point? So, as an example, the return for Chattanooga was about 300 to 1. So for every dollar they spent, they saved 300 with us. So those are very compelling numbers. So that's what we look at as we go into the different markets is what does it cost to get the data, process the data. And so our plan right now is to really grow rapidly around the United States, collecting the data from a variety of people, processing the data, and getting the answers out to folks. Taking that same model, the digitize, analyze, visualize, and monetize to the roads are a very natural fit, and they're much bigger than the airports. Buildings, again, a natural fit. You start to look at agriculture. You start to look at, for example, the skin of aircraft. There's a whole bunch of different areas where if you can use high resolution imagery that's not available and you can do it in the field, convert it right away, there's a swath of opportunities. So when people come to our company, and I don't think I've had this chat with Nicole yet, but we try to be an incubator. We know that smart people are going to come here and they're going to see other opportunities that we can't even think of. And they're going to say, gosh, what if we did this? And so that company that I worked for early on with satellites, they acted like an incubator, and we're going to do the same thing. If somebody comes up with a good idea, let that person leave and come up and go through the difficulties of having to go through the startup stage when they can just work in the same building, and we give them funding to develop, and then they can spin out of the company in a much healthier state and go off into their own market, whatever they've decided. So I could spend hours talking about all the different opportunities that exist with this. It's just think anything you can look at with your eyes and measure that's what the market is.
A great explanation there. It was funny that you mentioned agriculture because we had one participant who earlier on was asking, hey, is this expandable into that agriculture area? Because again, we're looking at the ground, we're looking at some of those same factors that may come into play. So excellent that you brought out that point. When you're looking at doing these quick analyses through AI, have there been some hiccups or some cons that weren't initially anticipated? And how have you overcome those, if so?
Yeah, I think the first one is AI is expensive. So going into it, we said, oh, we'll just put it on the cloud. So we did that. And what you'll find, this is just my own theory, but some of the cloud companies are getting oversubscribed. And so what ends up happening is you essentially have your virtual server up there and you're paying, let's just say you're paying $1, right? But what happens is you then come along and you say, hey, I want that virtual server and I'll pay you $1.05. Well, guess what? They turn your virtual server off. They call it icing. And then they turn the virtual server on for you because you're going to pay them more. So what we found many times was that we would start the process and, the cloud company doesn't care about your process. They're just, they just want you to, it's an on and off switch for them. They don't know if it's running or not. They just turn the availability on, and then they turn it off when you're done with it. But you got to remember to turn it off or it keeps running. So that was one of the big surprises, is that as soon as the data left our hands and we didn't have control of it, we didn't know when we could deliver it, because we didn't know, are we going to get iced overnight because someone's going to come in and buy our server away from us? So that's when I started buying servers and racing the cloud. And I would just watch to see, even though I knew this single server was slower, overall in the process, I didn't have to upload, I didn't have to download, and I controlled it. The only thing I couldn't really control was electricity coming into the building, if that got shut off. So that's what we've gone to. So we've picked up a hybrid methodology where we have on-premise servers as well as cloud servers. And we continue to battle with the cloud providers, because we can run, I think one of our servers, when we put everything into it, is costing us about $1.50 an hour, compared to the same level of server virtually, which is probably somewhere in the magnitude of $6 or $7 an hour. So it's a cost thing, but we always keep an eye on it, right? We don't want to just dismiss it, because now what we're finding is, because we have so much data, now those cloud providers are coming to us and saying, well, why don't we figure out how we run you faster, and then we'll talk pricing. So things are changing. And I would say that for the I call ourselves specialized AI. Those are the kind of relationships that I have to go out and work on every day. Hey, let's work together. You want my data. I want you to process it. It's easier for me to do that, than I don't have to buy more space, right? It's a good teaming arrangement. So that's what my role starts to become as we bring on people like new pilots and everybody else. Like Puerto Vallarta, I was out there running around carrying gas cans to run our hybrid drone when we were down there. You just got to kind of do those things in a startup. But that's why, as we grow, revenues come in. We get to go out and find great people, and hopefully there's people in the audience now that will be our future employees and come up with these great ideas, just like Nicole.
It's great. You bring up a point there about the need to change as a leader, from being focused on the direct operations of the organization and developing and creating that, and moving into different a wider aperture to look at all of these different aspects. How do you balance those things out when you're trying to both build the company itself and ensure that and expand the company into different areas, but at the same time having to look at all of these different ancillary aspects that are needed to allow the organization to thrive?
You you do lots of jobs. You don't get a lot of sleep. Your family gets mad at you because you've buried yourself into the company. But you start to see a tunnel with a light at the end that you're coming out of as you start to make progress. And it's a fun, exciting, it's almost like flying fighters, where you're like, okay, you're watching revenue, you're watching your spend, and then you get surprises. And I don't mean to keep going back to Nicole here, but I got to find the kind of coffee she drinks, because just the short period of time that we've known Nicole and seen her energy, the excitement that just her alone has brought to our team. And you think about it, we've been going through the grind, and it's like, oh, we like to do these things, but we just don't have the time. Nicole, even part-time Nicole, helps us scale so much faster than if we tried to grind it out ourselves. So you have to recognize that you can't do everything at a certain point, but you have to balance it with what your spend is. So it's a constant battle. It's just like balancing your checkbook at home. It's and that's why as you develop and you gain traction, my role shifts from the the tactical level to a more strategic level where I'm like, okay, let's go out and raise $50 million because we want to go into these countries and we want to hire these people and do these different things. That's how I've evolved so I can help the team behind me. But I always look for smart people and giving more and better than I am, much smarter than me, being able to do different things. So always look to hire smarter people, that's for sure.
And I
That's
think
why
that
we're
would bring
here.
up that would bring up the question of, when we look at your background and to today, from start to finish, you see someone who's constantly evolving into new and different areas and continuing to expand out into different aspects. What would you say, both from your own personal experience and from those that you've hired on, is one or a few of the traits that really help someone to be able to make those transitions and to be able to make those the continuing to grow the way that's necessary to make it to where you are today?
Great question. And I would say it's first of all, looking at people that have gone before you. You're not, you know, you're not facing things that others haven't faced. Learn from their experiences. The other thing is there's a lot of movies and books that I have our team read. Like when it comes to customer service, I have everybody read The Nordstrom Way. It's a weekend read, and it tells you how to be kind to your customers. It's kind of obvious, but for a lot of people, it's not. Shoe Dog is a great book about Nike and how they got started, and the perseverance that company had to go through and the leaders of it. I really love a book called No Rules Rules by it was written by the guy who started Netflix, and he must have taken a great log of everything he did, but he talks about all the problems that you encounter and how they decided to handle them, the mistakes and different things. And there's some other like Good to Great to another book, but reading books and don't apply them one for one direct. Understand the concepts. Good for Great talks about a bus and getting the right people on the bus, the wrong people off the bus, and then getting the right people in the seats. Doing the right jobs. You'll find that some people will grow and they'll be great at one thing, and then you move them to something else and they don't do so well. Well, figure out where they do well and figure out how you cultivate that so they continually win. But I think a lot of it is talking to other people. You're not the smartest person in the room. Listen. Don't transmit all the time. Listen. This morning you were there. Nicole was telling me how I had to stand and everything. And look, Nicole, there's no camera. Okay. But the thing is that be prepared. And when you have a nice, simple plan that you can prepare, execute it really well. And fall back on all those different things that you've seen and read in books and talked to others about that you'll go, oh yeah, I think I recognize this problem. Moneyball. Oh my gosh, what a great movie. That every entrepreneur should watch that movie over and over again and learn from it.
Excellent. We've got a list of books to go ahead and check out, and a movie that I would hope that most of us have already seen that movie. But great movie, Moneyball, all around. I love using that for any courses on leadership and having that. Creating a new idea and bringing it out to fruition, especially when people are telling you that it's not going to work. Great opportunities there. One question that we're continuing to get from a few students is, hey, I don't really have a background in this area yet other than my schooling. How do I break into this industry if I don't have any practical experience, but only that educational background?
Don't worry about it. The thing is that I would say those 4 stages that I spelled out, the digitization stage. if you, that's super easy. Get a drone, go out. If that's very easy, the digitization stage. The next part is the data, whatever data you're collecting, right? Or maybe you can just buy data. But that analysis of data, the first thing I would do is get really good at Excel or something similar, but Excel's really good. And I would stick in the Microsoft range. I know a lot of people like Apple, but if you do Microsoft Excel, it transitions over to this thing called Power Business Intelligence. And from there, at a very sort of, I wouldn't say an introductory level, it's very complex, but you can do a lot of things where you can take Excel, master it, put it into Power BI, and it'll help you do analysis. And a lot of the analysis is really, it's not difficult math. It's just repetition math. And that's where the AI comes in. So Python is a big coding thing that I think most people use in AI, and there's a couple of other things to it. And if that doesn't float your boat, then what I would say is look at the end user and what they want. If you can find a problem with a customer and you really understand what it is they want. We had a customer call this morning and gave us, hey, here's my problem. Can you solve it? You're going to find that most people in the world don't have enough time. So if you can take that one customer and make them happy, whatever market that is, you can scale up and replicate what you've got. So as you're building whatever it is, make sure you can replicate it without having to hand build it over and over again. So again, that's the software side. If you're talking about building drones, there's a lot of drone companies I could recommend you to that are always looking for quality people, and Embry-Riddle with its background, that should be an easy lift. And then the other thing is get an internship, if nothing else. If you just have no idea and you just want to walk in and see if you like it, we'll bring you on as an intern. You got to live here though. No, I'll just point that out. We do not let people operate remotely. Everybody works in a central spot. We find that the cohesion and the level of expertise increases dramatically when we help each other.
That's some great advice right there, and some great areas for people to explore into, understanding that the ability to have some of these individual skills can help to grow and develop into that whole package that those organizations are going to be looking for when they're trying to initially find just something to scratch that individual itch that they have at the time. We have one student or one individual who's asking, what locations are you in, and are you able to hire people, the Canadians and other foreigners, or is it only U.S. citizens at this point?
So we are located in Tyson's Corner. That's because we're 15 minutes away from the Pentagon, the FAA. So that's why we're here. We also have a office up at the FAA Tech Center, which is up in Atlantic City. If you're in that area, we're looking for someone there. Here in Tyson's Corner in Virginia, this is where we have everybody from pilots to AI to sales, all those kinds of things. You asked about, do we hire foreigners? Yes, we, obviously we follow the visa program, whatever visa program you're at. And I'm not super smart on that, but I know that we have at least 4 employees that are on some type of visa program through their country.
Great.
Yeah. So let me just mention this one thing. We're scaling to go everywhere in the world. So if you're in a place that we want to go to, there may be an opportunity there as well. But you would go through, Nicole will have all that info.
So for those of you that are asking about the possibility of operations and positions in Africa or the Caribbean or other places like that, please go ahead and reach out to Nicole, and we may be able to, there may be a situation available for you as the organization continues to expand. We are really getting down to the last few minutes that we have here. Are there any last minute things that you would like to put out, Grant, before we get to the bottom of the hour?
I just want to thank you all for spending time with us today. I know, like I said, you've got busy lives. I appreciate everyone from Embry-Riddle setting this up. I hope there was some value in it. And if you need me to do it again, I'm happy to do that. And if I don't get invited back, I'll know I was no good. But the thing is, don't forget, we're going to have a Embry-Riddle versus Silent Falcon crud match. Nicole will announce that, and it would be great to see everybody show up for it. Maybe we can do some fundraising for something. Anyhow, no, I want to just thank everybody. You guys are at a great school. If there's anything we can do to help, please let us know. We're busy, but we always try to help those that are in the same field.
That's great right there. And there's a couple of questions coming on about the how to get in touch with Nicole. If you are an external login, meaning that you didn't use your Embry-Riddle login, then what you'll need to do is, before you close out, go through the meeting chat and find the information that's there. That will go ahead and allow you to provide the information. For those of you who did log in through your Embry-Riddle account, this information should be saved for you to be able to go back to it and look up those information in the future. But just to be safe, always best to go ahead and do it. And I know that Nicole just dropped her LinkedIn link in there along with her email address for you. So please go ahead and take down that information if it is something that is of interest to you. Grant, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule today. I don't know how many people we normally have on these events, but I think we topped out at about 110 individuals that logged in. And so it just shows the interest that's there in both your organization and that idea of the future of aviation, UAS, and AI, bringing that all together. And I'm sure, you know, being a military pilot had a little bit to do with their interest in being on here. I mean, everybody loves to hear military pilots talk.
Well, I appreciate it. And again, good luck to everybody. We look forward to seeing you in the future.
Absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, as we get to the end of our time period here, we will have more of these presentations coming up. Keep your eyes open for a possible guest speaker in January and then in the months thereafter. I don't believe we have anything programmed, and Arnold, let me know if I'm speaking out of line here, but I don't believe we have anything scheduled for the month of December, given the busy and hectic schedule that month entails. But in January, look for us to come back again.
That's correct. Thank you again also, Dr. Rouse. We really appreciate you facilitating this event. For those of you who want to stay on just a little bit longer to ask some questions, please feel free to do so. Thank you again, Lieutenant Colonel, retired Grant Bishop. Really enjoyed this. Looking forward to some additional sessions down the road. Have a great day, everyone.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Arnold. And I'm going to stay. If you can stop recording, that would be awesome. Thank you so much. But I'll stay on just to see if anyone's got urgent questions for me.